Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and today we're going to be talking about tension bow and why everybody seems to be building it. It's an interesting question because if you've been away from the meta for a while, you might not understand why tension bow has suddenly been built in pretty much every weapon power build in existence, given the fact that it's only had a 2% increase to its armor pierce over the last few updates, and I believe this was an update 2.3 that it got this particular buff. So that was a very small buff to an item which has now featured so heavily in quite a few different heroes' builds. So I thought I'd do some maths, and I thought I'd compare it against its main competitor, which is Sorrowblade. Now, you will have seen these calculations before. Your damage is calculated by weapon power over 1 plus your opponent's armor divided by 100. And then if you've got percentage pierce, you have to calculate the percentage that is a pierce times your weapon power, which gives you flat true damage, and the remainder of the damage you do the armor calculation to. So let's compare these two items at 20 armor, which is the level 1 armor, is the lowest possible, and we are comparing it at 1 attack a second. This is so that on the 6th hit you get the tension bow proc. Again, I thought it was the nicest way to round things out. And you can see here that 72% is the efficiency of tension bow compared to Sorrowblade at 20 armor. And that's interesting because the cost is also 72% of the cost of Sorrowblade. That's quite nice. SEMC have done that quite nicely there. Let's compare it at 256 armor though, which is the generic level 12 max armor plus metal jacket. And you'll see that the efficiency of tension bow actually goes up to 92% at 1 attack a second. It's important to note because I'll talk about the attack speed later. Also, it's very worth noting that we should take into account the first hit. The first hit is incredibly important because always tension bow on first hit will outperform Sorrowblade, no matter the armor. It will always do more burst damage, and that's what tension bow is built for burst damage. And in a meta dominated by very squishy carries, including the many that you see on your screen right now, having that one burst is very important because you can combine with your laner or your jungler, and you can often burst someone out outright. You also have to compare it to its build paths. Tension bow and poison shiv is a very common build path right now because mortal wounds are very good. With lots of heal on the meta, Lyra and Grace, and with fountains obviously being so good at saving hyper carries, this is a really good way to burst late game scaling carries before they get there. And a lot of builds will then build Breaking Point after this to supplement their late game, because if you then have your ability to stack Breaking Point, you can actually do pretty comparable damage, especially with that 12% armor pierce coming into play with the tension bow. You have to take into account that the more attack speed you get, the lower the average DPS for tension bow, because the 6-second timer does not get affected by attack speed, so you'll be doing more attacks at the low, basic weapon power damage that tension bow gives you. You also have to realise that some builds are creeping into meta that don't rely on attack speed at all. For instance, take weapon power Kestrel with that build that I just showed on screen, tension bow double Tyrant's Monocle that is coming through for Grumpjaw. Sometimes you don't need attack speed to make your builds good, and tension bow provides a huge amount of burst on those single attacks. Go and try out that weapon power build on weapon power Kestrel, Sorrowblade, tension bow double Tyrant's Monocle. Your first glimmer shot will hit like a rock. It's also worth noting that a lot of carries will build tension bow and Sorrowblade, so they get the best of both worlds. The big on-hit damage that tension bow provides at the very start, and the fact that you can then get the follow-up damage that Sorrowblade provides. Weapon power Idris is one of these carries, for instance. He will build this plus Poison Shiv usually as his 3-item build if he wants to burst a specific target. So anyway, this is a very short video on tension bow. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll do some more maths related videos sometime soon. Cheers.